Good morning, everyone. Now we are talking about the importance of workplace coaching, especially in our generation today, which is multi-generation. We celebrate the power and impact of coaching and invite us to reflect on one of the most important investments we can make as an organization. That's investing in our people and how we enable them to grow, connect, and succeed together. I use that because very interestingly for organizations, we approach a business from different perspectives. We think the customer is most important. We think the shareholder is the most important. Charles Bronson said, no, neither of those two is the most important. So the most important person is your people. Because you turn them in a certain way, they will satisfy the customer. They will satisfy the shareholder. So I want to talk to you today about people and examples about the fund and what he has done. Let me start with my own journey. Pastor, when I became MD of NSSF, which was about 2 years ago, I had never been MD of NSSF, but I had these preconceived ideas that, you know what, I've been there almost. I was CFO in the US, became CFO in Barclays Bank by then, became Deputy Managing Director. So in my mind, I knew things. What he talked about, preconceived ideas, or what it meant to be. So I thought coaching wasn't really for me. Coaching was for everybody below me. I have news for you. The coaching starts with the MD, the head of that department, because it's only when you get to know some of those things you don't know that you can help guide the people who are around you in that case. So my own journey, I remember being appointed as MD. My chairman was then his name was Peter Kimbo, Dr. Peter Kimbo. I said, Patrick, we need to get you a coach. I said, no, I don't need a coach. He says, my friend, have you been MD before? I said, no, I have not been MD before. So what do you know how the dynamics of being an MD? He says, no. Because in my mind, which if many of you go through, we thought coaching was to fix a problem. There's a problem with you, therefore let's assign a coach to you so it can be fixed. Coaching is not about that. I don't know what you call that, but that's not coaching. He said, no, there are things that you're going to be confronted with you've never seen before. So I got Dr. Martin Odwori. He's Kenyan. Many of you have seen him before. He was the MD of KCB before, and became my sounding board. So it has just been an amazing walk through that. But the point of it is, what we do in our, or you may want to come and help me on this one. I'm using his because I'm going blind, and I couldn't read too much from that. So that was one thing that we found out. So the first point that I want to really tell you, if you are here an MD, take the coaching thing for you. It is very important. Secondly, one of the things that you want to think about is, it's not a one-size-fits-all. You think about this. Think of a soccer field or a soccer club. You've got a coach who specializes on the strikers. Then you've got a coach who specializes on the goalkeeper. The coach who coaches goalkeepers is not the same coach who coaches strikers. Different strengths, different skills. So it never stops. Because what you're going to be confronted with today, or the dynamics we'll see today, will be very different from what you see tomorrow, because you're a growing organization, and it works out that way. So most people have thought that, coaching is just about this one thing. It's not about that. The reason why we started Pathfinders in the fund was we're trying to address an issue. We found out that statistically, at entry level, more women were joining the fund than men. But as we came to middle management, the stats flipped. There were more men in mid-level management than women. And we tried to analyze, why is that we are losing the women along the way? Some were by the natural, biological reasons. The disruptions that happen to you in your life, that doesn't happen in a man's life. So the man pulls away. And I remember working in HR, and you won't believe this. I posed the question, say, okay, you ladies, give me a solution. What do we need to do so that when the lady has to go away and take care of the child and stay away from there, we close the gap, that when she comes back, the gap is not 6 months, the gap is 2 months. I know we struggled with that. Until the lady said, no, Patrick, we don't have a problem. Until one lady, I think, Sheila, are you here? Yeah, Sheila is there. The concept of pathfinders comes from Sheila, that we need to find a space where the women can encourage each other, they can walk through this thing together, and make sure that we begin to plug in those holes. Peer-to-peer. Stephen, I think you ran a cohort for the last, he was there. These guys they were attending classes, and you can see them changing. Out of this group of women who attended Pathfinder, I think 3/4 have been promoted, just because they were able to do certain things at Ayota. We don't stop there. That's where now coaching becomes interesting. Many times we put people in a cohort, they are done, they go back to the workplace, and we stop there. At the fund, we made a deliberate position that if you go through the Pathfinders, there are certain things we'll expose you to. For example, all our strategy meetings, EXCO strategy meetings, now we've done it 3 years in a row. We go off-site. We have about 11 EXCO members with their direct reports, which comes about 25. But we bring another 25, and mostly this time we focus on the ladies who have been Pathfinders to be part of the strategic planning for the fund. For that, for the 3 days, now they get to be immersed in strategy development. And suddenly, being a Pathfinder makes sense. It takes fruit, and people can actually do that. We have second-hand opportunities both within the country and outside the country, and we're sending our Pathfinder women to go there be seconders in positions that they are higher. Donna there said something very interesting. Donna said, the most scary thing, the point of stress is where you're given what seems to be impossible. And I'm going to tell you something, guys, as leaders here, and Pastor King to talk to us about that. God has given you certain abilities, certain dreaming. Those dreams had better be bigger than your current situation, than your current environment, than your current resource envelope. Because that's when it's called a dream. I tell guys, how much does it cost you to dream? 0. So why are you dreaming small? Because you're looking at your resource envelope and say, heck no, I don't think I can get there. So let me give you, and they'll tell you the reason why that's important. It helps you then when you're coaching, they are anchoring what they want to do towards where the organization wants to do. 2015, we set up a 10-year strategy for the fund, which ended June 2025. We had 4 targets. Move the staff satisfaction from 63% to 95%. Within 10 years. So the 595 one. Improve our processes and become so efficient that you can pay benefits, especially age benefit. Turn it from 36 working days to 1 day. If we do that, we'll wow our customers, you are members, we'll wow you. And we'll move your satisfaction from 71% to 95%. And if we wow you, you will give us money. And our balance sheet will grow from 5.5 trillion to 20 trillion shillings. That was our strategy. We called it 95, 95, 120. That was it. Even the board said, you guys are nuts. It took the fund 30 years to grow to 5.5 trillion shillings. You think you can triple the fund in 10 years' time, 20 trillion shillings. And I said, if you do the things the same way, we'll not get there. The most interesting thing is, when we set those targets in 2015, we did not know there was going to be COVID, which closed the world, which closed Uganda for 2 years. We did not know there was going to be parliamentary inquiry, which demotivated us as staff. We're beaten to death. We did not know there was going to be midterm payments, which took 600 billion shillings a year from the fund. Think about it. We didn't know those things. But this is the result. And part of it comes from your coaching, but there's a direction you also have to go through. We hit our staff satisfaction 91%. We didn't get to 95. We know why. There was parliamentary hearing. Because we had actually hit 94, then we became demotivated, then we began building it up. Our efficiencies, we could pay age benefit in 1 day, but we had survivor benefit because some people were claiming they were dead, but they were alive. We found out because we saw a claim, we are using NERA certificate, which says there's a death certificate. We go to the village, and the guy is up and kicking. So we had to go back and redo our processes. So that basically, we didn't hit an overall 1 day, we hit 4.6 days. The customer was one of the most interesting that we did not hit 95, we hit 89%, and we know where. We didn't get the products we needed to get to the members. But this number is one that's most serious. We hit 20 trillion shillings in June 2024, 18 months before our target. By the end of June 2025, last year, we were at 26 trillion shillings. These are savings from you and I. And the point I'm trying to say is, what seemed impossible then, because you set up that target, you can mold your coaching towards that target. Because it becomes a point of discussion. People move out of the impossibility. Last year, we did something with Donna knows, we have Angie. We said we want to have an All-Africa Pension Summit in Kampala. Target one. Number two, people must pay. So you know that people are going to, you're very willing to pay to go to Dubai. Eh? There's a training, you pay, you go to Dubai or South Africa. Say, no, they need to pay. Say, why do they need to pay? I say, they have to pay. And by the way, Ugandans will pay $600. Non-Ugandans will pay $1,000. That was just, you could have seen Agnes's face. Impossible, we can't do it. Say, you guys, do it. And they began to organize it, and they are scared, and they are saying, but they stepped on it. By the way, being scared is okay, just don't stop. We ended up with a summit in Munyonyo in November. We had about, I think, 800 delegates from 36 countries. They paid $1,000 to come to Uganda and loved it so much, they want to come back. So we're organizing another one next year. Just their ability to be willing. And Angie and her team are a product of the Pathfinders, because if you're going to tell people to be courageous, you better give them something to be courageous about. Otherwise, it's a theoretical discussion. So marry whatever you want them to get through, build them up on, marry it with practical things, and it will help them get to the things that they want to get there. So it's not just a developmental tool, it's a strategic enabler. It helps us bridge general differences, foster understanding, and create alignment across diverse teams. Coaching shifts us from a culture of instruction to a culture of engagement. When the Pathfinders, these women, they've gone through 4 cohorts, and each cohort is around 40, I think 30 people. And they've continued, even after Pathfinders, they've continued, they have book clubs, they are reading books, they're doing finding, talk to each other. That's amazing. Men came back and said, but women are being left out. But we know that the problem with the men is not, they said the same problem the men face in the workplace. When you talk about courage, the men are going to be more adventurous. They will apply. The woman thinks he can't apply. So what we created for men was what's called men's space. So we have a men's space going on with the men. We talk about those intimate things that, you don't, we'll talk about the safe things called finance. Hello? That's fine. But we also talk about sex. Now, suddenly the women say, no, we want to be part of it. Say, this men's space. So we build the coaching principles now in some place that is continuous and takes on different forms because we are dealing with the different things. What we've seen around the fund now is this can-do spirit that you see members getting up, people getting together, and they willingly do things that you couldn't even have thought about it. Let me give you an example. One of our biggest branches in Jinja, the biggest customer member there is the Catholic Church. So one Easter celebration, we get a call from the branch manager. They have a little petty cash. Say that I'm going to do something. No, the branch manager went to the priest. Say, during Easter, we want to come and serve as ushers in the Catholic Church. Well, the priest didn't have a problem. With the born again, sometimes we stay away from the waraji and those other things. The Catholic Church is cow with it. So our guys buy wine and go with the wine, and they take the baskets there, and they serve as ushers. But what they did was they set up NSF tents outside. The priest announced, before you go home today, please stop by an NSF tent and just talk to them, maybe you know what your balance is. Many of you know that the Catholic services are very efficient on time, okay? 1 hour, we are done, okay? They are not like some of the us born again. We start at 10, we finish at 2, then continue at 3. Anyway. So what happened? They then, so 1 hour the church, the service is done. This is Easter. Most of the parishioners did not leave the church grounds until 4 p.m. because they go to a tent, and for the first time, they pull up their balances, and they are shocked. You mean that is my money? Say, yes, it is your money. But the point is, nobody told that branch manager, you need to go do something with it. They thought about it. And what happens as you coach and beg your guys, you empower them, they begin to do things that you yourself would not have thought about in terms of reaching your members to do that. And guess what they said? They said, no, we have a target for customer satisfaction, 95%. We think if we go to this Catholic church and they see us, and they see our balances, we'll contribute towards that. And that's why you need this long-term view where you anchor the whole company to go towards, because it makes a lot of difference if we do that. Of course, now you're wondering, so what do you have? So for us, in the 2020, one of the things we have now we've got the 2035, Vision 2035. We've reduced it to 3, not 4. So we said, okay, we want to grow. Now this will shock you. So we began designing this plan around the beginning of 2024. So we had 2 years to work on it because we did not want to get to 2035 and there's a break. We wanted people to transition to 2035 when we're still in 2025, so that you couldn't even know, but you transitioned into it. So we began to talk about 2035 around the end of 2024. So people in their mind knew that there's another strategy we're following, let's go. So we said, okay, we're going to do 3 things. We want to grow the fund. First, I'll say service levels, non-negotiable, 95% for all our stakeholders, whether it's a staff or a member. We want to give you services in such a way that you give us a mark, a grade of 95%, non-negotiable. We want to grow the fund to 50 trillion. When we did it, we were around 18 trillion. So we want to grow the fund to 50 trillion. We changed that recently during the strategy meeting. Say, no, 50 trillion is too small, so now it's 80 trillion. But we are going to do that by increasing coverage from the current 3 million to 15 million members by 2035. So the new thing for us is just 3. We call it 50, 80, 95. That's a strategy. So every person in the fund knows that. Everybody was okay with the 95. Everybody was okay with the 80 trillion. The 15 million is where there was a tug of war. No, impossible, we can't get there. I say, no, we'll get there. And what's happening now, people are beginning to figure out how to get there. We have a whole department just they were in the markets. They went to camped there for 2 weeks to try to help people, market vendors, save. There is this lady. In 90 days, she saved 229 times. Sending 5,000 shillings in the morning, midday, evening. And she just went crazy on savings. When she came, her balance was about 1.8 million. She said she had never had that amount of money in one spot. Now, what motivated her to save that way? She was a typical ass. She had a metal box. So every time after she has done her sale, she would save the money in that metal box, go put it in the house. The husband one day came back and did a box robbery. And he cleaned everything. So in this miserable state she is in, NSSF shows up that you can save with us more safely. And she's done. And what you find, the people are now beginning to get where they can now live these values, this coaching thing, because you give them opportunities to do and they encourage each other in the process. I'll finish up by one so that you can realize what we mean by how coaching helps, how people work once you have this direction, that's okay. So how are we going to get 15 million people? So we have a program. We have the market vendors, which is fine. We have a program we actually are funding startups. Many of you who are in banking, you know that you banks will stay away from any business that is small and so on, because you say, it takes as much money to underwrite 100 million shillings as to underwrite 1 million shillings. So why bother with 1 million shillings? So we've come to that place, together with MasterCard Foundation. Over the last 4 years, funded 438, created 30,000 jobs. Why do we know that? They are members. So we're extending this program together to 2030. We want to fund 1,000 startups together. And in our computation, this is the way we're looking at, say, 1,000 startups. We know the failure rate in Uganda is 90%. So 1,900 will fail. That's my risk appetite. 100 will survive. The next 10, 15 years, what happened to those 100? Those 100? Maybe out of it, I get an MTN, I get a Stanbic, I get a UBL, and I've invested in them when they were still young. And suddenly, it changes the dynamics. And for you guys who are looking at risk, the way you want to look at risk is, if you're a risk person here, don't think about just one side of risk. I will lose 100 million shillings. You already know the loss. You've already ring-fenced it. Because risk is really managing the unknown. If you know you're going to invest 100 million and lose 100 million, I know my risk. Look at the other side. If I don't do it, what's the opportunity cost? If you don't join the coaching program, what happens the next 3, 4, 5 years? You won't even know your potential you could have had if you had joined the coaching program. And that's how we build the country. Because if we don't, it's us who have to build this country. So one of the things we are doing, which is audacious, you guys will kill us. So we said, okay, if we're going to go from 3 to 15, there's one segment we need to touch, which is agriculture. So we looked at the pain points for agriculture. And if you look at, and I've said this over and over again, our policymakers, NADS, OWC, PDM now, made one economic assertion which was half-cooked. The problem with agriculture is the supply side. Therefore, give the farmer post-harvest handling, quality seeds, affordable financing, give him so that he can produce, irrigation so that he can produce. The farmer actually produces. Then he says, where am I going to sell it? And as a country, we never had an answer for that farmer. So the farmers are demotivated, productivity is low. Because we only address one side of the economic equation of agriculture. So we are plugging the demand side. Government finally allowed us, we registered a company with other shareholders, we call it NAMCO, to do one thing: identify markets for Uganda, negotiate with those markets, negotiate quantity, quality, price, timing. Then come back to the farmer and tell the farmer, hey, have a market for soybean. Who signs up? This is tentative pricing. We now begin to link the farmer's effort to that idea came from the staff. And we've been working on it, putting it together. And it's amazing. Before we even finished, last year Uganda produced about 300,000 metric tons of soybean. Most of it for domestic consumption, and Kenya for their animal feed. The first order we're having now is from China. 1 million metric tons of soybean within the next 12 months. You think of what that does for us as a country. And by the way, it's not the high price the farmer needs. The farmer needs to know there is certainty and predictability of the market. This is what coaching does. It allows people to think and they can do different things that you want. So guys, as an entity, think of your company. Give them this opportunity so that you can free. Nothing is as great as NSSF has 600 people. So I tell guys, you think about 600 people. Because we have a strategy, we are all facing the same direction. Now, some take off and run. Some walk slowly. Some freeze in place. They have no clue. But they're facing the right direction. So even if they fall forward. You tell me what happens if 3% of everybody puts a 3% effort, either showing up on time, doing their job faster, whatever it is. Suddenly you've got almost a 2,000% impact on the productivity of your entity. And no wonder if we do some of this. That's why we moved it from 50 to 80 trillion, because when we ran the numbers, end of March, we're 26 trillion, you remember, in June 2025. We're now at 32 trillion. And when we ran the numbers, we realized, no, 50 trillion was too small. We needed to go and do some things better. So in my conclusion, this thing called coaching, please, let's take it seriously. We don't know it all. The preconditions come. We do. And there's so many diverse things that come on our side. So it's a continuous process of learning how people you can have feedback from. Milton, he's our head of HR. I'm very fortunate to have him. He has a skill I don't have. I tend to be impatient, really impatient. And that can take you far, but so far. So usually, Milton will come and say, boss, you didn't handle that very well. Now I've learned to say, okay, what do we know? How do we repair it? And we figured out how to repair it. We called back the guy. I apologize. Sorry, I really didn't mean to do this, but I think I hope all is good. And it's okay because now suddenly you are accessible because they know we run what's called open door policy in the fund. People know that I can come to you and be very frank with you, be honest with you. You give me feedback and you won't take it personally if you do that. So sometimes in this coaching thing, if you have got EXCO members with different skill sets, talk to them. Don't think that it's just going to be somebody outside there because you have faced so many different things at once that you won't even believe what happens. There's somebody next, I want to mention her. That lady, she knows her ways through parliament. You want to talk? You want to get the speaker? She's irritating on some area, but goodness, for that, she will open up doors. So then we know where to put, because that's what coaching is about. Because that's the thing that we did is, yesterday we were doing the values. How we work is our values. The values guide how we work. How we deliver are our hard skills. How we relate to each other when we are working towards delivery is our soft skills. And the coaching is all about the soft skills. How do you make it work so it works quite well? God bless you all. Thank you very much.